Welcome to the Enfield Budget Committee meeting of October 24th. I'm calling the meeting to order. First order of business is meeting minutes. Answer. Like to make a motion to. Oh, we'll make a motion.
And a second.
All, okay, all in favor of this. Oh, we have to do.
Oh, yes, I did, yeah.
So Jim is on, which means we're gonna all have to vote one by one. We can't just.
Oh.
Yeah, so going around the table for all those in favor of.
We have to give our names also.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
discussing the, or approving the minutes.
Nancy Smith, yes.
Dave Buffet, abstain.
Brad Rich, yes.
That's a question.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the changes first?
You do that after you vote.
No,
No, discussion after the.
discussion.
Oh, the
is after
motion is, the motion is to open up the meeting minutes.
Yes. You have changes.
Yeah.
Dan Regan.
Oh, you don't need a motion to do that. The
Well, he
open
just said
minute,
he did.
you make a
She-
motion
she
to
moved-
accept the minutes and then you
You
have
moved to
discussion.
accept the minutes. Put them on the table for the members, the motion. Nice. And either Shirley or I seconded it.
Cause I got in trouble last time for just opening up discussion. So do we need it or not?
No, she can make a motion to approve them and then you'll just have to amend it, or you can discuss them and then make a motion to.
Okay, so
accept as
Let's
approved.
discuss.
let's discuss it because I have changes.
All right.
My change is that I called the meeting to order at 6:30, not 6. Any other discussion of the meeting minute?
It's good.
That was mine.
Didn't notice.
I feel proud, I noticed it. David.
Did you have one too, William, or no?
He's the same one.
No, okay.
Okay. So now,
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of October 10th. Is this adjusted with the change?
Second.
alright. Motion for approving the minutes, going around the table.
Yes.
It's Nancy.
Dave Buffet, abstain.
Brad Rich approved.
Dan Regan approved.
Dimi Deserano approved.
John Klug approved.
Jane Plumley approved.
Jim?
Jim?
Jim abstain.
Meeting minutes approved. Next,
I'm gonna say, Jean should be excused from this meeting, because I think she got
Yes.
left you too.
so she emailed me that she's unable to make it for medical reasons. EMS budget review.
All right. Well, we have the EMS chief here to talk through some of these things. As we've done in the past, I've given you the budget and highlighted some of the things that I want to talk about. I'll let him talk through the budget and then some of the things I might be able to cover a little bit more. I guess I can do the first two
Kick it
real
out.
quick. Mutual aid ambulance service, I just rounded up and pulled the number over. As you guys probably remember, we will get a bill right after the beginning, or right at the end of the year, and we'll adjust that number either up or down, hopefully down, but we'll see where it comes in. We'll adjust it accordingly. And then the ambulance personnel, we bumped up for two reasons. One, they've been responding more. So if you see, as of September,
We pay mutual aid for what we spent in 2023, right? And so if we have more responses in 2024, we should be paying mutual aid less in 2025 for 2024.
if we're responding more, we should, but we're also having more calls, so we'll
Okay.
have to look at what they
Right.
actually run. You know, it's a cost per call that
Yep.
we pay them. Pay
So, but
them
if
for that.
we respond We pay our volunteers, we don't pay Lebanon
Right.
if Lebanon doesn't respond.
Yeah.
And we're behind on Lebanon by 1 year.
Yeah, they bill us for the prior year.
Okay.
I get their bill.
And I'd like to just speak on the ambulance personnel. EMRs, it goes from $15 to $17 an hour. So EMRs, which is the basic person, is 15. Then you have your EMTs, those are 16, and then the advanced EMTs are 17. And we don't even have a line for paramedics, so it's not a lot of money. So, and then we haven't had raises in I don't know how long, and some of that's my fault. I try to be as frugal as we can, but volunteerism is just down, which everyone knows that has anything to do with volunteer organizations. You know, and it's not, I hate to say that we're volunteer because we're paid on call, but we have to be trained, certified people. So we have to have a license. You know, we can't just, I can't just have you guys jump on and let's go to a call. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have a national registry license.
So Chief, how does the 15 to 17 compare to surrounding communities?
I looked at the neighboring town. They were paying their EMRs like 17 and change, which is the basic level. And it was kind of like a $2 or $3 as you go up. Paramedics, obviously, with their level of training, they should get a pretty significant level of money. We don't even have that budgeted on ours yet because paramedics just, they go off and become full-time people, or they're nice enough to come and help us. So
So do you have raises built into this budget for next year?
there's some in there. So it depends, like Ed
Yes.
said.
Yeah, we plan to use that $25,000 for the raises that we need
Right.
Yeah.
and increase response. It's always a little bit of a crapshoot because we don't know what response is gonna be like and that
Yeah.
judges all that. So I think the $10,000 that we put in there is adequate to make this move. And
So we've talked previously about other employees for the town. We realized we were behind. We put together a 2 or 3 year plan. Do we have a 2 or 3 year plan, or we're just putting a Band-Aid on this now? And should we develop something?
I don't think it's a Band-Aid. I think we looked around, we saw what others were paying, and I think we're just gonna move them to that level. It's not a 2 or 3 year plan. We just need to increase them.
And you think then we'll be good?
I think we'll be good. Yeah, and then we need to continue to watch that. I was talking to Richard about
Yeah.
that, but we need to just continue to watch what's going on in the market and we can adjust accordingly moving forward.
Yeah, because they are trained people. That's what I try to,
Turned out.
yeah. I
I'm
try to
startled,
stress that.
we're paying these people McDonald wages.
That's what I say too.
Can't believe it.
We're done.
Yeah.
Oh, so what are you planning in that 25,000 for a raise? Like,
We were planning, like he said, about that $2 an hour, going from 15 to 17. So we're really close to what Canaan's doing and we can watch the market a little bit closer moving on there. See what our volunteerism rates look like, and then coming out of the Emergency Services Committee, we'll have a little bit more recommendations and we'll look at moving forward.
And I look at it like this too, you're not paying people. As anyone has a business knows, when you start paying benefits and stuff, then you really start talking money. So you're getting a pretty good bang for the buck, and I think the town knows that. So they've always been good to us, so.
Thank you.
Internet, we went down a little bit. Again, this is a little bit of a crapshoot. We budgeted what we think we were gonna need for that, but we're gonna be moving in the public safety building halfway through. So, we put that money in there. It may be a little bit on the high side, but we also know that there's gonna be a few unexpected costs in all of the budgets for some supplies as we move over. So I think that's a really good number just to hold there. It's gonna be close on internet and give us a little bit extra maybe, depending on when the public safety building's finished to make that move. I'll let you talk about the next ones. It's a little bit more in your wheelhouse, supplies.
Oh, supplies, as a lot of people know, on EMS, a lot of stuff is, basically time. And it goes bad and stuff. So you have to replace everything, and the cost of supplies is like way up. You know, like I was telling Ed, I just tried to get some more saline and Ivy stuff, and literally down in North Carolina, the place got whacked.
Yeah.
You can get one bag.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like we're having a hard time getting stuff. So, but the price of everything is like gone crazy.
And the other,
As medical professionals know. Everything medical is expensive.
yeah, the other thing
Supplies
to
is-
remember there too, the more we respond, the more supplies we use. So
Right.
it's all a balancing act.
And it's like going to a cardiac call, you're gonna use a ton of supplies. Whereas, you know, you go to someone with a little cut, you're not using really much. So if you get a lot of those calls, it comes with pretty significant costs, you know.
So do you think there are more to respond to because the population is getting older? There are more calls.
We're kind of watching that. I mean, the population is aging and we
And
have,
Bill for sure.
we just did this data in the emergency services that New Hampshire has the second oldest population in the country and Enfield is above average in New Hampshire. So we definitely have an aging population. It could be part of the reason we have a higher call volume this year, but I don't know. I think it seems like everybody's having a higher call volume this year. So we'll just continue watching that. We did have the discussion, you know, is this year a little bit of an anomaly? Is this what we're gonna see regularly moving forward? And until we get that data coming in, we're not gonna know that.
And on the office supplies, I kind of overbought last year. Somehow I kind of went to Staples twice and I didn't even realize I'd done it. So that's why you can see it was like way up before and it's down there like that. So I have plenty of stuff. Only thing that might have to put a little bit in there, which I'm speaking with Ed tomorrow anyway, is probably for like ink and stuff for the printer. You know, other than that, I got plenty of envelopes and staples and
Yep.
yeah.
And we can talk about some of that with the merger into the public safety
Right.
building. Some of that stuff's gonna be combined a little
Yeah.
more. We'll see some cost benefit, so.
And gasoline, it needs to, that probably needs a lot more money. I haven't sat down and figured out because our new ambulance actually is a gas job. So I kind of got to look at what we've kind of spent so far. So I'll have to get that number to be able to give you guys something on that. We no longer have diesel. You know, we got rid of the new ambulance, got rid of the old one, got the new one. So we had a little overlap in what we spent on diesel. So it'll be gas and we fueled it probably 4 or 5 times now.
So is that a mistake then?
No, the diesel fuel was from the other one. So it just needs to be moved.
Yeah, this year's actual was down, so.
Yeah, so it is. It needs to be
Instead
moved.
of diesel,
Go to gas.
it should go to gas.
Yeah. And I don't believe $500 is gonna be enough. So
Okay, we'll adjust those numbers and
Yeah.
get back to you.
I don't think it's crazy, but as far as the change, but I think $500 really ain't a lot in fuel. That one's a 65-gallon tank.
So back to repairs and service contracts. This year it was $3,200 and it's nothing next year. Is that because of the
I'm trying
new
to, to
facility?
be honest with you, I gotta look and see what that was, whether it was from the old ambulance having issues in breaking down.
Okay,
Yeah. If I had to guess, that's probably what it was. There was issues with the old ambulance. For some reason, it would go to the call fine, but when we got to the hospital and came out, it didn't want to do its thing. So if I had to guess, that's what that's from.
okay.
So you will probably see that change. Because, I mean, the new ambulance obviously is gonna have to be inspected. Next year, it'll have to have the oil changes and stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to look at those a
Yeah.
little more.
And then the maintenance right there. So you see that, we gotta look at that.
Okay,
See those two?
Yeah.
Vehicle repairs and maintenance. So that's probably a total, I'll have to look at that for the other one for you guys, so you know. 'Cause
yeah,
I
the
know it seemed
repairs and
right.
service contracts are not ambulance stuff. So we'll talk about that
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we'll have to find out why it's in there and what it is, to be honest with you. And get back so that you guys know what it is.
Uniforms?
Yep, we kind of backed off on stuff because we were getting so close on money. I didn't want to go over on budget. So literally, we just didn't spend it if I don't have to. Well-
Need it.
Unfortunately,
Well,
they
with
have
some of
it.
our discussion
Yeah.
too, that we had that this budget was getting a little bit close and then we were tight on some other areas of the budget. So we've asked a lot of people to back off unless things needed to be spent this year, so.
Well, safety gear concerns me. I hope that that's.
Well, we don't have to have stuff like the fire department does. You know, like we have shirts, pants and boots, and it's not like you have to buy those every year for people.
Okay.
You know, if they choose to wear them on their personal time and wear them out, well, then they're gonna have to explain why they did that, but
How are we doing in recruiting?
I got 2 new ones in class tonight, actually.
Our numbers are actually up.
Great.
We're responding quite.
I
a
can
bit.
use anyone else I'd like to help. Even on the fire department, I think Phil could use help, so. But, so the real big one is, the replacement equipment. We have, looking for my actual Mazimo, is what they call it, RAD 57. I had to print out 2 and I left it at home. It does pulse ox, which we have a regular pulse ox, but it also does the CO in your blood. As the doctor knows, when you put that on someone's finger, they could have high CO levels in their blood. But if I use a regular pulse ox, it's fooling that. So when you switch over to this thing, it tells you if you have high levels of the carbon CO in your blood.
CO is carbon monoxide.
Yeah, carbon monoxide. Yeah,
So that's a new piece of
yeah,
equipment.
yeah,
for the ambulance.
yeah. My other one died.
Okay,
Yeah, it was so old that it finally died. And it is a special piece of equipment that we had. So, and I believe the Fast Squad bought it themselves the last time. So. But it literally just stopped working one day. It's like, uh-oh. And then it's just, some other miscellaneous equipment like a battery for our Zoll second battery, you know, it's $1,001 for a battery for our defibrillator. And, I think we had some other small stuff in there. Just because it's replacement equipment, new equipment. But the big one is that Masmo, that's like 5,000 something, $5,300. That was the big one.
So you'll be up, 25 or 24 budget. We don't have 24 actuals, obviously, but you're up 12%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it's due to additional response
Yeah.
People showing up.
on their side.
Yeah.
And we explained that if they respond more this year, we don't get less in Lebanon's bill for that same year. It's hopefully it'll show up next year, but it was one of those things. We have it. We don't want to discourage them for responding because it's,
I take out of, so 149,000 that was asked for, take 94,000 out, that's not a lot of money. To run something all year
no,
long,
he's looking at this one.
Yeah, I
They're
know, it's-
budgeted to
yeah.
actuals this year.
right?
does Lebanon change the rates from year to year?
No, our rates
Thank
are,
God.
our rates are static for the next couple of years from the
Okay.
contract, and then I'm sure they'll go up after that.
So,
We budget for 3 years, 5 years,
We have a
contract.
2-year contract. I think we have another year of this contract. And then, like I said, I mean, we will get the actual number of what our bill will be next year before the end of this budget session.
right,
So we'll be able to put the exact amount.
so like the 94 will be able to replace with the actual bill number down to the penny,
Mhm.
which would be the 2024 bill.
Yeah. So we'll revise a few of these numbers and come back to you guys, but my goal is if we do need to add a little to try to find somewhere else in the budget to pull it from.
So there's been some, interesting discussion at the Emergency Services Committee, which I think all the chiefs have been fantastic at being transparent and really working together. We've been kicking around some ideas. Are you prepared to talk about any of those tonight? Because I think, I don't want to beat you up on the 12%, but for the taxpayers, it's 12%.
Yeah.
But we've been kicking around some ideas the chiefs have, and we've been giving input on ways that maybe we can reduce overall cost with some creative things. You want to talk about that now, or do you want to hold off on that?
I think we want to hold off on that because they're not going to affect this next year's budget at all. We're gonna have to get the training and things that we need which is gonna take most of next year to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's not gonna be a large impact to this year's budget, and we're not gonna be able to decrease that 12% because we're looking at some of those things that immediate, but we are looking at some things that'll save money in the future.
Is there any way to accelerate some of those things?
Probably not that fast. I mean, the training's 140 hours worth of schooling that's spread out over months and months and months. And,
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if we can get there and get it in place, it might help a little bit, but I would not feel comfortable budgeting for that, and then who knows what happened. We had the plan of doing it once before and we lost a few officers and we weren't able to get people into training, so I'd rather get them trained and then say, hey, we can reduce the budget now.
You know, a big chunk of that 12% is in that one piece of equipment.
And the salaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The salaries.
the benefit of that won't show up until next year.
No, and when you have, I mean, 130,000 is 130,000 or 140, but 12% of a smaller number, so
Yeah, and
it's still
Shirley,
12%, but it's a smaller number.
It's smaller.
and Shirley knows this.
DPW was going up 12%, that would be a lot bigger deal.
But Shirley knows this, being on the budget committee as long as you have. When I was on there, she's been here a long time. She knows that significantly, the fast squad doesn't really ask for new equipment,
Mhm.
hardly ever.
Mhm.
So we hardly ever ask for anything, you know, give us a shiny ambulance and, you know, but
Mhm.
nowadays it only goes so far, so.
And he
And it's a
told me-
life-saving piece of equipment too.
He says he's frugal, and I can attest to that.
You guys good? Any questions? Anybody?
Any rough idea about what the addition and cost might be range? You're talking about?
What addition?
You referred to several line items
Oh,
that would be, coming
fuel?
back to us.
No, I'll get those back to you, but I also wanna, when I do that, like I said, I'm gonna offset them somewhere else in the budget. You know, we gave you a budget and I don't want that going up. I want it coming down, and we'll be working on that over the next few months as we're starting to get some final numbers on things.
thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Fire.
Bill,
Next week.
We're all looking at you.
It's my nap. I think they're all on the same sheet here.
Yeah, it is bigger.
Yeah, that might be a whole lot easier, a little bigger writing. First item is the firefighter services. And the reason for the request down is the next line. Making a line with $4,000 for fire wardens. So it's really the same money, but we need to separate that portion of the budget out. That's a different function. And it shouldn't just be as firefighter services so that we can track it more closely. And there are some possibilities to recoup some money from the state for writing permits and how we go about the online permit programs and that type of thing. So that's really essentially a bookkeeping internal to the department.
So that is for people who ask for the seasonal permits.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Well, we have people that go out that are the fire warden that will go and check the fire pits, go and check the burn piles. They get paid for doing that.
Okay,
And I want to be able to see what that money is rather than just having it lumped into the total of the firefighter services. It may be more than I'm thinking. It may be less than I'm thinking. I just want to have a
line
handle
item
on
to
it.
track it.
Want to have a way of tracking.
Got it.
Telephone communications, that's, as Ed had spoken, kind of a fixed cost. Let's see, what else? Have
We did,
The internet,
yeah, it did go down. We eliminated the phone at the the
Center
center
station,
station. Trying to bring some costs down. It wasn't really needed. And then again, those figures, as we start to merge in the public safety building, they're still gonna need phones and stuff, but, so we put those actuals in there. And the internet side, there may be some cost savings there. That's why that's down a little too.
the recruiting and public information. I mean, this year, we've done a lot of recruiting. We've attended a lot of functions. We've done a couple career days, and we do some keychain giveaways, pens, that type of thing to try to encourage people to have our name in front of them and encourage people to join us. So that's where that line is. The,
Chief, it's been pretty successful too. Your
It's-
efforts, right? Marginally.
It is, yeah, we're getting there, and I think we can talk about it a little further down the budget too, as to, you know, where it's being successful.
So where I was going was, if it's been successful and we know recruiting is
Yep.
difficult for you.
Yep.
And it's, why would we want to reduce it? Why wouldn't we keep it at the same level you had this year?
I think that we have some other spots that we can work it from in the budget, Dan,
Okay.
and legitimately. So much of the fire department is, if we had a crystal ball and we knew we were gonna have 7 structure fires and 27 accidents, and we would know what those costs are.
Yeah.
But we don't. So some of the numbers, if you will, and I hate to use the word inflated, but it's up there so that we can cover the worst case scenario. And with that said, I think the fire department has been very good at not just spending the money to spend the money. And I guess all I can do is say to you that I will not. But please don't look at it as over budgeting, because if we end up having a tough year, then we're gonna be running over lines if we start having a more busy year. Right now, last year, we had 238 calls and we just hit 220 with November and December to go. I'm anticipating that we're gonna be in the 250-ish range, which isn't a huge increase overall, but the stuff that we're responding to is changing, and we're being called for everything. Not just the smoke detectors, not just the fires, but when somebody can't get their water shut off, geez, can the fire department come and, it's a service, and I guess I feel that it's a service that, people remember, and at some point in time, when they go to vote on budgets and so forth, maybe they remember that. So, where else we at here? You know, office supplies and regular supplies, dues. I mean, the major cost on the dues is our hazmat organization, the group that we belong to. It's $2,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but we get back from that immediately each year about $1,000 in meters, and we can send up to 2 people to Baltimore for specialized training at no cost, room and board included. So realistically, with people going to the training with the equipment that we get for the $2,000, I mean, I don't know what it costs to stay in Baltimore for 3 days, but I'm gonna say at least probably $1,000 a day if you looked at it, room and board and meals and everything. So I think that's a good bang for the buck. Gasoline, diesel, that is dependent upon, numbers of calls, how busy we are. I feel comfortable with the numbers that are out there. And again, we don't go and just hoard gasoline to make the budget, to use it out of the budget. It's a number that's dependent upon calls. Vehicle repairs and maintenance, we dropped down. I feel that we're gonna have less vehicle repairs and maintenance because of the upgrade to our trucks. We're dealing all with one brand, which I think gives us an advantage to, we have a very good relationship with the manufacturer. And they treat us well, but given the age of the trucks and our maintenance on them, I feel comfortable with that number. Clothing, I would like to leave that there. And I'm gonna allude to Dan's, as far as the recruitment, we have some folks that are gonna be going to level one as soon as we can get them into some different variety of types of classes that we can send them to. A lot of things are turning to online, but they're gonna need up-to-date gear, certified gear that's, going to be recognized by the academy.
And this is
How much?
two, right? Two sets.
That's basically two sets, yeah.
I think
And
people need to understand that it's
$5,000.
it's a big number to outfit one person. So it's not like we have a bunch of money in there because we think we're gonna get a bunch of people. Two people passing their level one and that $10,000 is gone.
And unfortunately, we can shop the gear, but it's like any specialized piece of equipment that you buy, most everybody pretty close in price, and it's what style do you like better, or who do you like for a rep better? There's really not. It has to meet the NFPA standard, and once that is met, it kind of brings that number up across the board.
Is there a limit on how long you can use?
Gear is good for 15 years. And, then it's, in many cases, we'll bring it back in and somebody that's not an interior firefighter is gonna be utilizing that. The 15-year standard says that it's gear for all firefighters, but, I can't honestly say that somebody doing traffic control in gear or carrying materials in gear, I can't justify spending $5,000 on a new set of gear. I'm gonna give you an example and this, I just found this week. And this isn't faulting anybody in the department, but I think we are getting a better handle on. I got turned back into me a brand new set of gear, pants and bunker coats, still in the wrappers, had not been opened, manufactured in 2009. And they'd been sitting at a person's house. We've got a better inventory control, I guess is all that I will say. And, but it's those things that just make it hard to, justify when we come to the budget committee, because it's just how it should not be happening. New and replacement equipment, that went down a little bit, and I think, again, some of that is, gonna be that we don't need a lot of equipment on the trucks. But I think with that, we'll find some items that are gonna be needed at the new station. And hopefully be able to not have to get that money from other places, but be able to work it out of this budget and out of this line.
That's a pretty specific number. Do you already have things in mind that you need to?
What ended up happening, and this again is what I'm gonna do for the budget committee moving forward. We had missed a couple things when we were reviewing this. Internet was one of them.
Mhm.
Actually, I think telephone and internet were one of them, so we just moved those down by those amounts, so it went to.
That's why it came down to that now.
We could have dropped it to 28,000, I guess, and shaved $200, but,
But the actual is, 8-9% of what you budget.
But again,
How's that explained?
I will reiterate again, don't throttle us, because we have no clue of what we're going to be needing. This is, when we come in for a budget, we're looking at worst case scenario.
So,
So it's been that good a year, is that what you're saying?
Well, I think it's been an efficient year. I think it's been a good year. We've done a lot of calls, but I think that we've been, efficient in how we're doing things. We may be able to, and we started a couple years ago looking at moving, and we had moved some monies from line to line to adjust where the actuals were. But I don't wanna come back to the budget committee or have the budget committee say to me, geez, personnel line went over by 10% or 20%. I don't think that we can cut it that fine
what kind of things are in there,
in
in that line? Like, I understand,
New
for
replacement
example,
equipment.
the new and replacement
Yeah.
equipment. I mean, it's going to be whatever, flashlights, hand tools. If we had got a set of jaws that go, I mean, we're not anticipating any of these.
Fire hose.
Fire hose,
so,
um,
because I'm picking up on like your supplies means one thing and is coded one way. Your supplies,
Theirs gets a lot, our fire department stuff gets a lot of abuse.
right, but it gets coded under a different type of line item. You know what I mean? Like, in your case,
It's always been
the-
like that.
Well,
the supplies of
supplies,
doing business,
supplies there would be, yeah, bandages and just
Say-
disposables.
disposal.
got it, okay,
And these are fire hoses, aren't disposable, but
got it.
They're
you
hard,
know, I
they're
don't know
hard
what they are
items.
now, but a 4-inch hose when I was in was like $1,000 a foot. So you chomp up a few of those or have someone come drive over one and rupture some hose. Maybe they're
Well, and again, I'm gonna,
They're expensive.
some of, we've just gone through all the pumps have been tested, the engines have been tested, so the pumps are where they're supposed to be, the ladders have been tested, the hose has been tested. But again, as Ed is alluding to, if one of those pumps didn't pass, I'm gonna say that we could be in a $6,000 to $7,000 repair. And I don't know when they're going to fail. I hope never, but,
And so that line is essentially maintaining the trucks to continue to
It's
do business,
equipment.
right?
Most.
It's not, I wanna buy a new gadget for my truck.
well, there's the vehicles and repair maintenance line.
Okay.
That is, I will say, the motor oil changes,
Got it.
you know, all the fluids, the typical maintenance.
Yeah.
We take that in and we go through, all the filters. It isn't that truck has run a terrible number of hours or a terrible number of miles, but when it does sit at a fire, it's at 2,500 RPMs for 2 hours, 3 hours at a time. Yeah, so you can't just say, well, you only put 200 miles on it. You gotta look at it from what it's worked for you. So we have just simply made the practice, everything gets done.
I think on this year's expenditure too, you need to look at that same statement that I told everybody. If it does not have to be replaced this year, do not replace it. So, I mean, that one's low. I think it would have been on the lower side anyway, but don't go replace stuff just because it's old and needs replaced. If it's not broke, don't do it. A lot of these things we try to rotate and keep things fairly, I don't want to say new, but within working reasonable time frames, but
Yeah,
if you
but
look
it's
at the
also-
last few years, it was still low, but he was closer to that $20,000 mark.
But it's also about liability too. All these things need to be done. They need to be checked. They need to be tested.
Mhm.
If we have a ladder that fails, somebody's on that ladder, the expense is gonna be way more than finding out through a test that that ladder needed to be replaced or that hose needed to be replaced. I mean, our equipment right now is in, as far as I'm concerned, top-notch shape. We've had SCBA's have all been tested. All of our hoses have been tested. We carry enough hose so that we can re-outfit an engine after a fire because the hose comes back. When it's 0 degrees, it's frozen, it needs to get washed, it needs to get thawed out. We have enough hose to redo that engine so that we're ready to go again, right then. So, you know, there are those types of things. But
Chief, these numbers for 2024 year to date.
Yeah.
They're through September 30th?
says October 22 is at the top.
Okay, so I'm not that sharp, so let's just go September 30th and say it's 9 months worth of
Yep.
expenses. Are expenses in the fire department linear? Is it from month to month, or do you back end all of your expenses, a lot of your expenses? So where I'm going in is if I were to straight line, that's 61,000 and put your same run rate in, I come up at 81,500 for the
Okay.
year, which is
Okay,
a lot less than the 138. Where do you think it'll actually, do you think that 81.5 is close to right, or you're closer to the 138, or
it may be right for this year, Dan,
really?
but
Yeah.
I keep going back
No, I
to,
hear you, I hear you. I understand what you're saying.
if we have, I mean, it's dry as all get out right now.
Yeah,
We could have a forest, you know, a whole season of forest fires yet at this point. We could have, you know, we're gonna come into November, December, we start getting cold weather, people are using their wood stoves, we're gonna have a rash of chimney fires. So it's, you know,
okay.
I guess the only thing that I can, and I'll say it again, is, you know, to the board is that I have never looked at the budget and said, ooh, holy crap. I've got 70,000 that I can spend. What can I buy? No, it doesn't happen. And that's
I
as
got-
simple as that.
No, I understand 100% what you're saying. What I'm looking at is, okay, 2022, we're at about 105, 2023, we're about 105. And we budgeted for 138 in 2024.
Yep.
But we could come in as low as 82,000, and I'm not saying I wanna budget it.
But we've also taken an engine out of the works with engine 5 going out.
Yeah,
So I think it's fair to say that there's some expense that has not been incurred because of
Well,
engine 5 leaving.
there was some equipment old, which means equipment that doesn't need to be replaced, even if you swap something out.
Yeah.
So there's some cost there. I'd be really cautious of that, and then,
well, that's one of the reasons that led me to the questions. I look at your budget, what you're submitting is 10% less than the budget for last year.
Yeah.
Which is
It's reasonable.
great, I guess, but we wanna make sure you
I think
Getting what you need.
we're in good shape with that number. And again, those numbers are worst case scenario. In my mind. That if we were totally busy and we needed to, you know, be expending money, we have enough money that we're asking for, be able to accomplish that. If that makes sense.
There's no doubt in my mind that you are extremely frugal and spend
cheapest.
everybody cheap. I was gonna use the word, but
I will.
you're not spending.
Yankee
people's money,
thrifty,
you know.
how's that? I guess the last one is the training. Um, that's dropping down. And that may drop again. Some of that's gonna be dependent upon the state and what the state offers. But most of our training at this point is training that is being provided by the state at their expense. The state gets a lot more grants than we do, and they have a lot of grant funded training. We try to take advantage of that rather than having that we're, you know, hiring groups ourselves to come in to do the training. We're utilizing those free trainings, if you will. Now, that's not saying that we're not gonna spend some money training, but that may even get better than that 25 this year, just because of what we're able to take advantage. And then a little bit less on the, on the repairs for the center station and the Union Street station. I think the 6,000 is fair because I think there's still some things that need to be done to the center station. We're not doing anything to Union Street, and hopefully we don't have anything that breaks, but if we do, we're gonna have the money in the budget to be able to take care of that.
And then as you mentioned, with some of the stuff we're kicking around, there may be some training costs and thing that we didn't really budget for, but if the money's in the budget available, we'll take advantage of those.
Recruiting?
Recruiting is going reasonable. Like I, started to say, we've got 4 people that are gonna be able to take level 1. Some of the problem and why we haven't jumped them right into the level 1 is, again, the state of New Hampshire. We have to use their training because they are pro board tested. So we have to go through that program. They have changed some of the training programs. And I think we're just kind of catching up with their changes at this point. But recruitment, we've picked up a couple people that are also on the fast squad that have come over onto the fire department, so we're gonna have that cross training. We've had a couple other people from outside that have talked about it. As you know, from the emergency services committee, that's been talked about, they're just not the numbers of people out there, and,
Can you explain quick, just for their knowledge, what it takes to become a level 1 firefighter?
well, level 1 firefighter, I believe right now is 160 hours. And so let's remember that everybody that we have also has a job. So this means that they're going at nights and weekends. Typical class is, let's say, Tuesday and Thursday nights. Pretty most generally Saturday and Sundays, both full, 8-hour days. And, I mean, so we're asking somebody to leave their family that 160, and don't quote me on those hours, I don't remember if it's 160, 180, but we're asking them to leave their family, in our payroll. We do pay people to go to level 1. We hold paying them so that if they're successful, they get all the money. If they're not successful, then we try to figure out how come they weren't, and the state will work with us on try to mediate and get a passing. They want people to pass.
Is it training in Concord or is it nearby?
It's gotten worse. More of it's in Concord. The state doesn't like to do field training because then they have to hire instructors to do it at night and on weekends. The state would love to have the academy be days only and that people would do it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, and that somebody would go full time to the academy. So that's the issue there, but they have started doing a program that's called On My Time, which means that, and I think there are 17 segments to it, or chapters, different types of training. Person can go through and do all of this online. They print out a certificate at the end. Then they can take that certificate and go to the state, or if we're able to organize local trainers to come in and test them on the practical portion of it. I think it's easier for the folks taking the class, but I don't think the departments get as much quality out of it, because sitting in a class with 15, 18 other people, hands-on with those people, I think the quality is much more. So I'm a little bit afraid of, and if somebody from the state sees this, they're already gonna have heard me because I have brought this up. I'm just a little concerned at how quality it's going to be, and I think it's gonna put it back onto the individual departments to still do more in-house training to make sure that those people are, you know, correct, done.
Bill, can you remind me when they get that level one, what they're qualified to do? Basically,
With the Enfield Fire Department,
yes.
okay? That allows them to go with a more experienced firefighter to go into a building. That doesn't give them free rein of everything. It will not give them free rein to drive the equipment. It will not give them free rein to operate the pumps. Those are still things that they have got to get signed off on at the department level. Level one is very much a beginning to the service, to the fire, becoming a firefighter,
Like a student teacher, almost.
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah,
Very
the
much.
entry-level firefighter certification that just teaches you the basics of
Tools,
what you're looking
hose,
for inside a fire, tools, hose, how to use them.
how to get the hose off the truck correctly, there's correct ways and incorrect ways. You know, how to put the hose back on correctly, how to carry a ladder so you don't hit your buddy in the back of the head with it, and make sure you don't run it up into the wires when you're standing it up, and, you know, all of these things that just,
Has our call response improved, or is it still, like, in the past, you showed spreadsheets that
Call
showed
response.
call response, how like a
Um,
handful of people was doing the calls and other people.
I think it's still majority with a small number.
Mhm.
But I think there has been some improvement. I think we're going in the right direction. Um, go into the restructuring a little.
Sure.
We're restructuring the department. There are, I won't say a large number, but a number of people that have been officers for a long time that have done nothing for the department. I don't believe in having them as officers. Officers should lead, officers should teach and train. So we're doing some realignment. It's the first step in realignment. This isn't gonna come as a surprise to any of them. We've been working on this for a couple, 3 years now to work towards this. I have spoken to each and every person, and so there's gonna be no surprises, but I think it's gonna build a better, solid core for us that can help the others maybe progress better.
We've been we've been introducing, well, Bill's mostly, but I've been working with him to introduce roles and responsibilities and things that we're gonna require of people as they move through the department and start to build that real career ladder and put some responsibility up for some people at the top. A couple years ago, we did adjust our pay scales as we're talking about in EMS to catch up with people around us, to build a little bit more of a ladder. So the more training you get, the more responsibility you take on, a little bit more you get paid. And so it has been a 3-year process of putting that in place and continuing to move that forward. But I do think it's really starting to pay some dividends. Like,
And and I continue thinking that the new station, public safety building will bring some people that maybe have had an interest but have driven by, you know, the station and, you know, maybe it's not what I'm looking for. And I think EMS could, you know, possibly see the same thing versus the little train station that's stuck down on the side road. Um, I hope so. I certainly hope so. Gonna do some open houses and, you know, types of things to try to advertise ourselves some more and keep going forward.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Next to the hot seat.
Oh,
Oh, all right. Got this round.
so loud.
Hello.
Can we go right in there?
Sure.
All right. Okay, so the first line is the police personnel full-time line. Kind of, it's significant up above last year, but we agreed last year not to fill our full-time officer position until June. So we took out half a year's salary of a police officer out of that to lower the budget last year, so you had to add that back in. This year, which brought us back up, and that also includes the proposed raises for the STEP program, the wage study and the COLA in there as well. Personnel part-time line. Again, this year we were asked to not fill our police assistant position for 6 months. We actually went 8 months without filling it, save money to help offset the payment to the public safety building.
Yeah, that's where the actual would be a lot lower. So part of our $200,000 trying to make up, we pushed that position as far as we could push it.
So that's why the actual this year's low, because we've only had her around for 2 months. And we also limited the use of our part-time officer to try to save money as well. Contracted services, prosecution increased, our prosecution through the Upper Valley Prosecutorial Association, which is a contract with 5 other towns.
We're in a group with 5 other towns. It's contracted through the Grafton County Attorney's Office.
For an attorney to prosecute for us, that's gonna go up about 7% for the year. The amount we pay for the Central Operations Unit, the SWAT team, has increased by 500 this year. We also, it also went up a little because we removed, some of the software from the repairs and services contract and brought it up to the contractor services. So that way all the software was in the same spot. So that one went up a little because of that, and the other one went down a little because of that.
We're part of a regional team. And so we have, because we don't have a large enough department, obviously to have our own, we're part of a team so that if we have an emergency or we have like a high risk warrant, we have to serve and stuff like that, they come and assist us and we do the same thing for them.
Okay.
Next one down. Overtime stayed in the same. Recruitment and retention. Telephone stays the same. The reason this year's actual is only about 8,000 is because we get billed at the end of the year for the phones at the PD. So that will go up once we get that bill. Recruiting and public information reduced because we're full staff now at 7 full-time officers, so we shouldn't need to recruit and
What
we
we
spent
spent
$2
on this year?
$2.
Yeah, 2024 year-to-date actual.
Recruitment and retention.
Yeah.
I don't, what we spent $2 on.
I thought, yeah,
There's 2
Stamps?
There's
That's $2.
there's 2 recruiting lines.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that?
There's recruiting and retention and then recruiting and public information.
Recruiting and.
Well, I bet that the recruiting and retention line must be the one that we set up last year that had the $20,000 in it that we set up for the recruiting and retention, sign-on bonuses.
There's $0 in it.
We spent it all. No,
The budget is 0.
The budget did nothing.
The budget is 0 and you spent
But that is
$2.
that line.
That's a type.
yeah, I couldn't tell. Yeah, it's a typo in there somewhere. So that was the line that by town meeting last year got voted in for, and I think we put, $20,000 in it. And then we signed an officer on, full-time certified officer on at $20,000 sign-on bonus. So that's,
Oh, okay.
we don't have,
Probably 20,000.
it's probably 20,000, not, yeah, now $2. There's a couple of zeros missing there. And, we're not asking to put anything in it this year because, we're full staffed and we hope to stay that way.
We'll look at those year-to-date actuals.
It's probably 4 zeros missing.
Well, it probably got coded or done straight to the fund, so we'll make sure that bookkeeping wise that
Okay.
it shows in here and we'll show revenue coming in. So.
Yep.
Office supplies is gonna go up a little because, as you know, we're moving to a new building. We have to replace some office furniture and purchase things to outfit the new building. Once we get there. Our repairs and services contract is going down this year because we removed the generator servicing got removed out of there and put into a general one at DPW. We also shuffled around some software to the other line. Our alarm service is going up by about 7% for that line as well. Gas, we're gonna say same 13,000. I think we're right about there every year.
So is the number we have right now correct?
There's gonna be some money moving from there.
Yeah.
Gas is almost kind of like that same question that was asked earlier, linear versus, I think we get billed by DPW when DPW gets deliveries of the big tank.
Got it.
And so that's how it works, right? We all have a code we punch in, and then when they get a new delivery, we pay based off of the price that they just paid, and so they divvy up that, and so you kind of see it. It just depends on who's.
I'll add to that, when we get deliveries and when they get the paperwork done to make the transfer, so. Last year it was all like one lump sum at the end of the year, so
Yeah.
it will go up from where it's at.
Vehicle repairs and maintenance expected to be about the same, even with the addition of the cruiser. It's the same amount of mileage on every cruiser, just spread it, same amount of mileage spread about among more cruisers, so we shouldn't have any more vehicle maintenance. The actual this year is about 4,000. The rest of that should be eaten up with replacing winter tires for,
It's up a little today.
oh, apparently it's up to 7,000.
So it definitely will be used up getting ready.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be used up using buying winter tires. No, oh yeah. No, vehicle repairs is 4,000.
Oh, okay.
No, you're at 4,000.
I was looking at repairs and service.
I was gonna say, geez, all right. Yeah, so vehicle repairs is at 4,000. We're gonna use that. We gotta buy about 5 sets of snow tires, so I'll be gone. No other major changes beyond that. The last few lines. All stayed the same from year to year.
Yeah, another page.
Flip it over.
Oh, there you go. So training, we're gonna increase, so the last few years, we've been short staffed, down one officer or two officers every year. Our staff has also been more senior. Most of us have been around over a decade, so we didn't require as much training. Now our staff is much younger. They're gonna need more training. The academy is also increasing the amount of training we need each year by 4 hours about every year for the next few years, so.
Does this include any of the things we've talked about? It does not. So if you were to move forward with some of those initiatives, that would be incremental funds needed.
Yeah, we found a grant that'll reimburse us for that, so.
Something better.
They exist.
We have been working.
We're gonna try and
really hard on the grant.
officers.
Yeah. Love those guys.
And those grants exist?
Yep, I found New Hampshire specifically has a grant that reimburses 100% for the cost to get that certification.
That's fantastic.
And, right, but to me, it makes a whole lot of, we talked about it before, it makes a lot of sense because the police officers are there first anyway,
Absolutely.
like long before anybody else.
So for those of you that don't know, we're talking about cross-training and getting our police up to at least the EMR level. So, you know, they're on the road, they're responding anyway, we can get a trained medical provider to the home quickly. Once we get enough of them and we do that, we can start adjusting run cards for the, what they call Alpha Bravo and possibly Charlie calls, which are the more minor calls that we would respond instead of Lebanon. And when they get there, then they would make a call whether we need to bring the ambulance in or not. A lot of those calls end up not requiring ambulance transport, which at $367 a call or something, any call we can save is money saved for the town.
And police currently carries defibrillators, right?
Yeah.
So each officer carries so each officer has a
AED.
AED,
First aid kit.
first aid kit and a tourniquet
Okay,
currently
Yeah,
now.
no oxygen.
Narcan, yeah.
Narcan.
and trained on all that.
Yes, yeah, we train and
The next-
recertify on that all the time. Everybody's CPR advanced CPR certified and first aid certified, and we do ongoing training. So this is just like kind of the next step and there's a good, I see a lot of, when we talk about it within the department, there's definitely some, kind of, the only word that comes to my head right now is kind of interest and excitement to do it, right? We respond to all med calls unless we're tied up on something we can't. And there's nothing worse than getting to a med call and
You can do it.
can't do it right outside of Narcan, AED, tourniquet, and just basic first aid. Can't do anything because we're not certified. And so this will just take us one step further where the officers feel like, hey, I have a trauma bag, I can do something on those higher end calls, right? Or those, Delta Echo level calls, right? Where life-saving measures, we can start right away. In the middle there, when there is going to be a transport, we can prep the patient, i.e. fill out all the information that needs to be had. So when the ambulance walks in the door, here you go. And we've talked to them and they're like, that's like the greatest thing they've ever heard of. And then on the lower end, it's those Alpha Bravo Charlie level calls where, we always get there and, they're like, I ain't going to the hospital. Like, I only called you because my mom told me I had to call you, or I only called you because, my son or my daughter wouldn't leave me alone until I called you. Well, then we can say, don't send the ambulance. We just saved the town $380. We can make an assessment and say, okay,
How much training will be needed to take your officers to that next step?
they'll go through the whole course.
About 140 hours of training. The other thing we see with that is the possibility of some recruitment into the other departments. And, we've talked a little bit and we'll look at what the cost savings look like for the possibility of some sort of, I say smaller bonus, but some sort of bonus for them to respond to medical calls and stuff off duty and start helping our other emergency services with that. But that needs a little bit more study before we move in that direction.
So can I ask you a naive question? I love this idea. I loved it since you very first mentioned it. How firm is this budget once we put it in place? So let's say,
It's solid.
well, wait, let me, so let's say next year, everything's landing jelly side up and you guys are, you're locked and loaded, you get you guys trained. And we get them trained and EMT certified by September. Can we begin to implement it then? Can we?
If we have money in the budget, we're not allowed to add to the budget at all to do that?
Yeah,
They can't exceed by even $1.
No.
well, where do you get the $2 for the?
Somewhere else.
They can switch around the line items.
They're
but you
locking
can't-
them with total
It
numbers.
seems to me if we could implement this, but I would hate to hold this until 2026. If we could do it.
Well, I think some of the, I see exactly what you're talking about, but, some of the things we're looking at is, so in order to do this, for my department, our department, it's all of our department. They work full-time, 40 to 60 hours a week, through the department. So, and we work weekends and nights and stuff like that. So we don't have the opportunity to kind of tell somebody that they switch somebody for 3 months to go to the EMT training.
Yeah.
So what we've worked on is we're working with a couple different companies that are certified to do this, to come to us to do the training. Problem is, and this is all why the taxpayers voted for a new facility. None of the facilities we have, they'll come do it at, right? So we probably can't kick this into high gear until we move into our new facility, which will be, hopefully June, right, or so. And so then that's when we're looking at really kicking this into kind of high gear. So now we're talking November, December timeframe
Yeah.
before we can really start kind of going out full force and saying, hey, we've got 70, my low end goal is, more than half the department this year. My high end goal would be 90% to 100%, the thing that we've decided, we're not gonna force somebody to do it. So I haven't had anybody tell me they're not interested in doing it yet, but if somebody says, not really kind of in my wheelhouse, I don't wanna do it, we're not gonna force them, so I can't say 100%. But I'd love to be, at, 90%, 6 out of 7 officers, next year. That's a high goal.
Yeah.
But it's a long way of me saying that until we're in our new facility, it's hard to kind of put it in place.
So
Well, and I think we can move in the direction we need to go and kind of get there without just throwing some budget numbers that we're not gonna know what they're gonna be in there. And so I feel we're in a comfortable spot. If we manage our budget well, which we plan on doing anyway, there may be some extra money if we need to do the shuffling around. So I'm pretty confident we can move forward as fast as we can move forward.
So two things. So at the end of the day, we're gonna vote on the bottom line general fund budget. Technically speaking, the town can go do
Whatever.
this with all the numbers as long as they don't exceed that over number. Granted, the next year you come to the budget committee, there might be a little bit more friction. But technically speaking, they can move money around, which is what they had to do this year when they realized we had to make another payment. Right? You had to find another, how many, $200,000 somewhere else. And so that's what happened.
Thank you.
Plus, we're always looking for grants so we can save money in our budget someplace, and maybe
He's good
that'll put us, where we need to be with some of that other stuff.
He's good at that.
What is the cost for that training per person, ballpark? Sorry.
You know what, I just saw the bill for it, $1,600.
Okay.
Current. Exchange, I think,
Well,
per
And
officer,
that's-
or per
Yeah,
person.
that's not time and that stuff. That's just.
that's just the course. So
But that's
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
also, we would pay people for taking it, right?
That's,
So
that's the bill I just saw for.
what is it? Rough
for
hourly rate.
Somebody from.
I think with
current.
said we were paying their base rate, well,
Okay.
in class, not overtime, but base,
Which is roughly how much?
depends on the person,
We'll go with
Average.
30.
Okay, so 30
35?
times 140, so $5,000.
Still cheap.
Yes,
for what you get, yeah.
No, I think it's gonna.
so,
Definitely when an
I
officer
think it
shows up.
really
at the
helps
house,
save the
within
town
3
money and provide a better service with.
And
right, so after making 12 call, after not having 12, 11 on calls, the officer pays for itself.
Yeah. Each year.
Right, but then I'm saying, once you have 12
Pounding.
12 times that the
all
officer
problem.
said, I don't need an ambulance, which is probably easily doable in a year,
Yeah,
it pays for itself in 1
do
year.
them a few months.
I'll even go a step further and say that, or the first time that the officer saves a life that would have been saved if,
Yes, yes, but
before
I'm,
the ambulance. Oh, no, I know. what you're
I'm
saying.
trying to make it real.
It is. Well, I think it's
We
also
do
a
that now.
retention tool, or not a retention tool, but a retention thing. When you come to Enfield in the future, you'll know that that's the kind of department you're coming to, and maybe you're not sure whether you want to be a police officer, but you want to be an EMT or something like that, and maybe being a police officer is kind of interesting to you. Enfield might be a community that you're like,
He's already got the spiel, yeah.
So do other towns do this?
what's that?
Do other towns do this?
There's, one town that does it, strictly, like, so every police officer has to be EMT and firefighter certified. That's Waterville Valley.
Okay.
And then there's one other town that I found that does something kind of along the lines of what we're looking at doing.
Because it seems logical.
That's what the guy from Waterville Valley said when I called him and asked him, he says, I get this call at least twice a week from towns all over the country saying, how do you guys make this work?
Interesting.
But they're the only one still in New Hampshire that does it.
Well. Just seems so right.
Another perhaps naive question. So based on what, Chief Martin had to say, we have some risk in his budget because we don't know how many calls they're gonna get. Same with Chief Neely, and that could fluctuate. Does your budget presented tend to be much closer to actual and you have a much smaller deviation?
The only real risk is our overtime.
Okay.
I mean, we've never really gone over it, but you
No,
get,
we manage it.
we manage it, but you could get, like, you get one major incident, a murder or something, you could,
But yeah, your budget you got is gonna be pretty close to what. we-
hurricane or something.
And so in the 6 years that I've been chief, I would say 90%, I'm throwing that number off the top of my head, Demetri could probably crush me in a minute when I'm looking at it, but, most of our money that we turn back in is empty, is vacant positions.
Yeah.
Any of the other money that we typically, I say turn back in, but don't use is because our budget is based off of, what we need to do to operate to provide the services to the town of Enfield that the people in Enfield have said that they wanted. And that's what we need to do that. And then what we do is we take that budget and then, myself, Lieutenant Fry and Corporal Smith, Cortland, we scour constantly for grants. And we're always looking for grants and we're always applying for grants and we've been successful sometimes and sometimes we're not. But a lot of times that's how we end up giving $5, $10, $15, $20,000 back because we're able to, for instance, this year, we got a grant to, we didn't get it at the beginning of the year, so we put into CIP to replace the computer or put a computer in the new car. We got a grant that paid for that. Luckily, because they upped the cost of the cruisers by $5,000 and $6,000 is what the computer cost, right? And so that's what we're constantly doing. And so if you look back, if we can find, in the past, part of our uniform budget is every 5 years we need to replace bullet resistant vests. Right? That's the lifespan of those. And every now and then a grant will pop up that pays 75% of those. And so, we'll finagle our budget, be like, oh, well, next year we need to replace 2 of them. Let's do it this year because it's only gonna cost us, $300 versus, asking the budget committee for $1,700, next year, stuff like that. So.
Thank you.
Now, we've done some of that in the past. We had a little bit of money last year. We had some money left, so or maybe it was the year before, we purchased tasers and did some things that were coming in the next budget, but we knew we have them now. Got a good deal from Taser. Let's purchase them and not put them in the next year's budget. So we're always looking at ways to manage and to keep costs down and, we try to budget appropriately for the year. And then once the budget year starts, we try to save that money as best we can and turn some of it back in.
Anybody else got any more questions?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a couple more little ones, but there's.
Oh, yeah, I got a couple,
Emergency management and dispatch.
So,
We're getting rid of emergency management.
are we getting rid of it?
Yeah.
No, we just don't have, so it's 0 because we have a current active, still good for 4 more years, emergency operation plan.
Okay.
And we have another 3 years on our hazard mitigation plan. That's where we budget that money that comes in.
Gotcha.
And so, and then under the, dispatch, we dispatch through Hanover. It's a separate line because it's that covers not just a PD, that's the police, fire and ambulance. And that's there. So theirs is always yeah, because they're a July to June town, which I don't get. Like, they're not even fiscal and they're not calendar. They're like July to June. But anyway, we always, we talk with them the best we can and predict what their cost is gonna be. And really what it comes down to is what is they're raising their cost of benefits and stuff to the dispatch center. And if they have to replace any equipment and stuff like that.
So we're predicting an increase of 5% for our second payment for next year.
So it's a,
Or
What
second payment
cost
of
does
this year.
the dispatch company?
oh, yeah. Like,
10
between fire,
PDs and 50 fires or so.
yeah, they've expanded quite a bit in the last 6 years or so.
I thought it was just a couple of towns.
No,
No.
No.
Like I said,
it's like half most of the
Yeah.
Upper Valley now.
Except for Lebanon.
Yeah.
right?
except for
for
Lebanon.
Lebanon.
Wow.
Basically anything south of Piermont to Springfield. I don't know where it is now.
And fire departments in
From Vermont, that's yeah.
in Vermont.
And some PDs and a PD in Vermont now too.
We're still happy with their services. They, we do, yeah, I know this was asked, I think, last year or year before, somebody asked if we ever, kind of price compare. So the only
Oh, yeah.
The only other option is Grafton County, which is it's about the same cost, but the service level, and I'm not saying that Grafton County is not good, but Hanover has, we have good communication with them. They've spent money to make sure that like our radios out here work to communicate with them. If we switch to like Grafton County, it would be a whole different process of trying to figure it out and, investing in some different towers and stuff like that. Lebanon doesn't want to dispatch for anybody but Lebanon. And it'd be about $3 million to build our own dispatch center and then about 4 to 6 full-time personnel. So that's off the table, right? Yeah. And I don't want, and we don't want. And it's, yeah, we don't, we'll let Hanover keep dealing with it. I think
Any
that's all.
other questions?
I just had one comment, which is this part of the budget committee is kind of heartwarming to me to hear what you do to save. All three of you tonight are showing us that, and it's not common knowledge always. And when we look at the bottom line, it's always scary, but I do appreciate it, and I think it should be a good way of life for Enfield that we have people that do that. Not all towns do.
Appreciate that. Well put.
Well, stated.
And I'd like to say that, so, you know, me and Lieutenant Fry, we're, you know, we sit down at least once a week and just go over stuff, how stuff's going and this, you know, recruiting and stuff like that. And we were actually looking today. And, this is first time we've been full staffed, or once Federico graduates academy in a couple weeks. First time we've been full staffed since 2019. And we went back and looked, and there's only one case where somebody didn't leave for money, right? But what I'm getting at here is I've been part of this budget committee, you know, since I took over as chief, and this budget committee has done really well at recognizing that problem, moving towards solving that problem. I know it's not easy. I know it's not an easy bite to take off that cookie and stuff like that, but I just want to say thank you because, you know, after this step this year, you know, and looking at everybody else, we're gonna be right in the middle of that, where, you know, we're not in the high, but we're not the low, so we're gonna be right where we should be. You know, and I just want to implore people to look, the wage study was, some people don't agree with it, but I can tell you with the PD wise, it's right where we should be, you know, within the PD community for the Upper Valley. And, you know, thank you for, you know, making it, you know, a little bit easier to help recruit this last year and stuff, so.
I know you said that you were picky on, you'd go vacant rather than take on somebody that you didn't think was good. And having personally met Federico during the eclipse, even he was over at Les Slut where we were. And I just found him very warm and caring and just nice, you know?
Yes, yeah, generally like that.
They'll fit in well.
Did a
Yeah.
good job.
Help it within the community.
Yeah.
Public comment?
No, these, all three of our emergency services departments are so professional as compared to many small towns. These guys do their homework and they earnestly come to you with sincerely crafted, well-crafted budgets. You can tell by all of them, they're just very thoughtful people who really care about this town.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
I would say all in favor, but that's not
Gotta go
required.
around.
It is required?
Yeah.
You don't need a second on the motion.
Oh, all right, then we have to go around the table.
Mhm.
Are we adjourning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
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 Jimmy, yes.
John Klug, yes.
Sam Plumley, yes.
Shirley
Oh,
Reed,
yes.
Jim,
Yes.
meeting adjourned.
You don't want that, guys? No.
So.
You know,
Poor guy.
Library, patient, you're just